for our audience who like have no idea who you are, what you do,
Sure.
how would you describe yourself?
Ooh, okay. Probably a little generically speaking, a content creator. I currently am the world's most liked OnlyFans creator. I have the page that has the most likes, and I am actively the most followed creator on the platform. So I do OnlyFans, amongst other business ventures. But yeah, that's what I do.
So one of the things that I found fascinating about your story is, which not a lot of people are probably going to know, is how much you actually give away to charity, which is something that our audience actually cares quite a bit about. And I think like there was a story about you like giving away $27,000 like in one day.
Oh,
Could you
yeah.
tell us more about that?
Sure. So, to give you a little backdrop, so OnlyFans is primarily known for adult content. They do other things. There's plenty of people who have, who are surgeons or professional chefs, and they have their own pages and stuff like that. But we consider our life and our page one and the same. So it's a very much real end-to-end vlog. So it has everything. I like to kind of just showcase my entire life. And part of that is certain things mean a lot to me, mean a lot to my friends. And I think if you talk to anybody, you know that there are certain charities that mean a lot to people, or certain, organizations. So we decided to kind of challenge some of those thoughts a little bit and make the charity aspect a big part of our page. So we've raised and donated over $100,000 to various charities through our OnlyFans page live streaming. And there was a particular instance, I had shot a Playboy article, and they were talking about our charity stuff. And it was supposed to be like several weeks out in publication, and the date got moved up. And we were like, ooh, well, since we like to be honest and transparent, we don't want to be caught with our pants down. So we're like, we need to make up this math very quickly. And it was a gap of 23,000. We're like, all right, cool. We're going to make this a fun time. So we actually took my entire team, we divided into teams, and we distributed $23,000. We said, hey, have at it. Go donate to various charities that mean something to you guys, document it. And we actually did that. So it was 23,000 in one full day. And it was just a really cool time. We actually put it out on YouTube and OFTV. And I mean, we hit animal charities. We did like in person. I know several people did that, and that was really, really cool. We did some handicapped, some personal health related charities. A lot of our team members have people who have passed away from cancer or cystic fibrosis, and so we did a lot of things like that. And it really it means a lot to me, honestly. It always gets me a little teary-eyed. So sorry.
No, you're totally fine. You're in good company. There's something else that not a lot of people may know about you, and it's what at least I can see are really strong values around family. Because when you started, one of the things you did was like you went to your boyfriend and you had a whole conversation about it, business strategy and everything. Could you tell us more about how you got started and why?
Yeah, sure. So going way back, my boyfriend and I have been together for 13 years. We actually started our first e-commerce business right out of high school. I was technically still in high school when we started it. So we've been together a really long time and worked together for a really long time. And we grew that first business over the last decade together. And we brought in a lot of our friends and family, because when you're 17, 18, 19, starting something out, you're like, well, who do I know? Friends and family. Who can I trust? So that always was a huge basis for us of who do we work around and who do we like to spend our time with. So that was just probably a bit of a cheat code for hiring. We're like, hey, you have the same core values as us. We can learn skills together. Come on down. So branching off of that, we built that into a successful inventory business. Inventory is a whole other game. Physical goods are a pain. I much prefer this digital space. Very, very nice. A big burden relief there. But we learned a lot of trials and tribulations. We grew that to do several million in annual sales. It's still around to this day. We actually have a lot of family members that run that business day to day, and they completely handle that for us. So we were kind of bored, for lack of a better term. We were in a transitional period, looking and dabbling at other businesses. We always kind of like to build things or test out little gadgets or find a way to build some software. So on a whim, one night I decided to sign up for OnlyFans. I was like, I'll give this a try. I don't know. It's Sunday night, date night, so we were watching a movie, and I sold $62 in photos that night. And I just turned to my boyfriend. I was like, hey, I did this. And he's like, what? He's like, what do you mean you sold? How did that? What is? He was so mind blown. And then just the wheel started turning. So we do a lot of brainstorming walks. So we went for a walk. He was like, this has got to be a fluke. Like, let's research this. So then we looked up the market cap, and we're like, market cap at the time was 2 billion. And we're like, okay, not a fluke, not a niche, not a niche thing. And then we started actually doing market research and like, what are the competitors doing? What's their content like? And then what's the setup? And what are the parameters of the marketplace? And we're like, okay, this seems like a huge opportunity and a really cool challenge and something that we could probably do really, really well. And we have no prior experience, by the way, in this industry. We weren't social media people. I barely even had like an Instagram account. Like personally, I don't even have one now. Like outside of my Bryce Adams one, I don't have one. Like I've never had Snapchat. So yeah, we started there. We did like 2-3 months of brainstorming of like, who do we want to be? How much do we want to show? You know, how much full face? How much of my life do I want to put on display? Because once you kind of go down that route, and I know this is a fear for some people, you can't really go back, and there's going to be certain stigmas and certain judgments. And we kind of decided like, hey, we've always kind of blazed our own trails, and we like to be ourselves. And if people don't want to agree with us, that's no problem. But like, I would never impose my, preferences on somebody else. So I think everybody should be happy to do the things that they want to and enjoy and experiment and try, as long as everybody's safe, happy, and healthy. So long-winded answer, but ultimately that was kind of the origin story. And from there, we kind of decided at like the 2-3 month mark after I started the account to commit full time to it. And then within 6 months of that, we had the most liked page. So we scaled like that, brought more friends and family on, and away we went.
That is such an incredible story. There's so many themes and parallels between that and what our audience is going through, because on a grander scheme, some of the decisions it sounded like you had to think through was just one, boundaries just within your own relationship, also professional and personal values, and then how to strategically decide, just what's going to be free content, what's going to be paid content, because in the world of consulting, typically the higher tier, offers, whether it's a online course or it might be a high ticket mastermind or something like that, it's behind some kind of paid gate. And so then strategically, some of the decisions need to be made. What do we give away? How do we not give away too much value? And then how do we decide what it is going to be reserved for paying members? So I'm curious, how did you think through that?
Oh, definitely was an evolution. It was not necessarily the game plan, and the things that we do now were definitely not what we had kind of mapped out on the board, on month 3 or anything like that. My boyfriend and I really work on this, 80, 90, 100 hours a week in parallel. So we're very much a dynamic duo in that regard. So I'm able to focus on content creation, customers, actually integrating with the messaging, and the content and the creation of our product is my priority. He's a lot more of the back end, the day-to-day, the data, stuff like that. So we strategize and come together on how we're going to, we take in the information and the data, and then we strategize and we make alterations from there. We had, it kind of changed along. The platform's grown and evolved quite a bit. They've rolled out several new features, so then we're able to monetize in different ways. We always thought, because there are, especially with the content that we make, since our product is heavily based on adult content, we had certain choices that we could make. So there are different setups within the pages, and a lot of this is probably technicalities to the platform itself. But you can have video products for sale, you can offer services and one-on-one interactions, things like that. And we took the part of okay, well, our page is going to be completely authentic. It's going to be our real interactions, and I'm going to do as much as I can. But at certain points, there's only 24 hours in a day. I can't personally manage to respond to 3,000 messages a day. It's physically not possible, especially if you guys want to see me, smiling and doing my thing. So we decided to go the route of the primary income stream and product would be the adult platform videos. And so we made it very easy, very simple. The first year, we're sending out 1 new video a night, and that's it. We're not spamming people. They have no pressure to buy. If they want to, cool. If they don't, no problem. Hang out, enjoy, have a nice conversation. And to practice that, actually, for the first year, we put out a new video every single day. So it was practicing our craft, getting feedback, trying new things, and we just kind of documented that whole process. So that was our story of kind of how we decided to do that. And then we weaved in other things, such as doing a couple live streams and integrating the charity live streams, and just, that was pretty much it. Just in a nutshell.
So that's really cool because that brings up, like three core pillars of any business, really: marketing, sales, as well as delivery, and having to think through not just the front end that people see, as well as the back end that keeps the trains running on time as well. And it
Right.
sounds like you both have an incredible work ethic to be able to continue to push out content consistently, which is usually what's required in any content-based business, regardless of the type of
Right.
content that
Yes.
is being promoted. Follow-up question to that then is, how did you think through the positioning? What usually comes before deciding what kind of content to even put out there? Because I remember you sharing that you did a lot of competitive research. And so how did you decide how to position Bryce Adams relative to everybody else that was already putting content out there?
Great question, first of all. So, man, how do we decide to position it?
I remember you, because I've looked at some of the content pillars, and I remember one of the things that you had shared in another interview was positioning based on authenticity. It
Yes.
feels very real. It's like, oh,
Yes.
this is a real person. Like it could be somebody
Exactly.
like right next door.
100%.
How did you? Was that something that you came to over time, or did you decide from the beginning?
That was mostly, I think, just right from the get-go, that was us. Because we thought, hey, like, who do we want to be? And we're like, well, the easiest person to be is yourself. And you don't have any of, like, I'm totally fine. If people want to be, have a fantasy or an alter ego, like, cool, have at it. Like, I appreciate that. That's not me. So for me, in order to connect with people as real as possible and to just live my life and document it, it was like, well, the simplest thing is to just be myself. So then that was the whole authenticity, being completely honest. And a lot of the platform, honestly, the base, at least I believe, of OnlyFans is that you're able to connect with somebody on a personal level that you typically wouldn't be able to. Like if you look at Instagram, like yes, you can send that Hail Mary DM, but like you're not going to get a response. This was built for actual connection and actually be able to conversate or have a chance to conversate with somebody. And so I always took it as, you know what, I would like to get to know these people. I think they want to get to know me. I'm sharing every basically inch of my life and documenting kind of like the hurdles and the leaps and the things that I would try out. And I would just be completely honest, like, hey, this part made me nervous. This was really kind of like an intriguing thing, or I learned this about myself. And I have gotten a lot of personal growth out of it. So I think being my authentic self from the very get-go was just, that's how we are. My boyfriend and I are very honest with each other, always kind of have been, and he's always really pushed me to be like the best version of myself, and I've grown like substantially from that. And I've seen and reaped a lot of benefits, so I've just kind of embodied that, tried to challenge myself even more, and this was like the perfect, timing, perfect platform, if you will, to share that with other people. And I've seen so many fans reach back out to me, and the amount of support that I've gotten from my fans and the amount of support that I've been able to give them has just been phenomenal. Like I get like life-changing stories. I'm not trying to be like dramatic. It's like actually true. Like fans will write me and be like, hey, I started my weight loss journey and like here's my before and after. And like I'm just following along with you guys. Like I'm not even giving out workout plans. They were just like, hey, I wanted somebody to check in with, and I know you'll hold me accountable, and I'm so excited by it. Like you guys make everything fun. Like let's just do it. And like they've lost 80, 100, hundreds of pounds. I'm like, this is so wild. Like, so it's just cool. It's just, I think it's a community and a friendship based. And we just thought, hey, you know what? If people want to be here and hang out and be themselves, cool. If they can contribute, awesome. But I just care about having a nice community that supports people doing the things that they want to do safely, happily, and like have an outlet that they can enjoy sharing those things, because not everybody feels comfortable or like they have somebody to talk to. So hopefully that answers it.
It does. It does. It's having an impact on a transformational impact on people is something that is really important to people who watch and listen to the Modern Consultant, because one of the things that many of us are really wanting is to scale the impact that we would usually have one-on-one with our clients
Right.
in a one-to-many format without losing the impact of that. And
Yes.
hearing about you being able to inspire people to create change in their life that typically, like even sometimes weight loss programs honestly aren't able to do, is
Yes.
actually really impressive. And
Thank you.
it's 1000%. I like my dad's an MD PhD. Like health is really important to me.
Oh yeah, I'd say
so. so another question that I have is actually more on like the operational side of things, because you mentioned that okay, you guys are up to 20 people now.
Oh yeah.
What are they doing? How does it all work?
I think there's 24, 25 of us now. So, okay, I have several people doing many things, but basically I have a team that I have 3 people on editing, long form and short form for social media and internal content. I have 2 or 3 main page operators. I have an executive assistant. We have 5 people on our chat team, and I will come back to that in a second. Ties in nicely with the authenticity. I have 3 people in my ads department. I have 4 developers and a separate IT person. So we kind of have a lot of unique things going on there. And we have like 2 other floaters that kind of like are like on all hands, like they're the interns. So they're very much available for whatever's needed for the day. Like, hey, we're going to film this thing in the gym. Like, can you guys decorate it all up? Or hey, can you run this errand? So we have a really great group. We're all kind of like within like a 15-year age range, but we all just have like very much the base same core values and just want to hang out with each other, have a great time, and support one another. So coming back to the chat team. So I did as many messages as I possibly could myself, and then we got into where we built our own software internally so that I could maximize my message output. So it's like 2 to 5x faster, and it was just by optimizing things in the back end that I would have lost a lot of time on, like a lot of copy paste or linking things in the background. So if I'm going to send a video, it's like I have the price and the pitch and all the details that go with it like pre-saved, so I don't have to scroll all the way through it and then find it. Things like that enabled me to engage with as many fans as possible for as long as possible. And then it came to the point where there were thousands of messages, and I'm like, I am drowning and no one's getting a response, and I feel bad about that. So what I did was I brought on a lot of my girlfriends, and so they all have their own pages. They're answering the messages on my page. When a fan joins, they have a welcome message from me. They get introduced to a girlfriend. The girlfriend signs every single message that she responds and lets them know, like, hey, Bryce is really, really busy. If you'd like to talk to her, you can talk to her on her VIP page. But here, we're the girlfriends. We're trained by her. We have all the answers. And if I'm not sure, I'll roll my desk over and I'll go ask her. So that's been super, like, great, because the fans still get to engage. They still feel connection. They can come to a live show and hang out with me. If they want to join the VIP page, they can. But that was something that we've never seen anybody else do. And the fans really, really do appreciate getting to know who they're actually talking to. And they can understand that I'm a human being and I have so many hours, but they're still getting an answer. And then I think that still keeps that connection alive, that what they came for, I guess is what you said.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And again, there's a lot of parallels between coaches and consultants in particular who are trying to scale, because everything that you just shared there is relevant. It's a different kind of audience, different content of the messaging, but the unifying thread between it is the authenticity and having systems in place to be able to give a human connection in an age that is being predominantly, influenced by artificial intelligence, and having people question whether or not the messages that they're receiving is actually coming from a human.
Right.
Yeah, that's fascinating to hear. That tells us about the current moment, though, and I'm curious about the future, because you come from this e-commerce background, and you came into OF with like this level of business sophistication that's probably well past what the average person does, and so I'm wondering if you're also thinking to the future as well. Are there investment vehicles that you're taking, like a lot of what I would imagine is, like cash business, and fueling it towards, what does the future look like for you?
Sure. We're still kind of playing out a little bit by ear. We've made several other investments in the creator economy space. There's definitely a couple payment products that are interesting to me. Being in this space, it's kind of like a high-risk payment processor, and there's a lot of challenges for creators. Not even just OnlyFans creators, but even some of my friends who are like YouTube creators and stuff like that. There's a lot of challenges actually for them on like the banking side, or being able to kind of just manage their money appropriately. Like standard banks and stuff, I don't think they haven't had a chance to catch up with like that this is a actual like life and business, and like this is substantial, and there's years of so. Anyway, so we ventured into investing in a couple different things like that we find interesting, cool teams, or like, hey, they're building cool software. I'm looking a little bit into some of the whole AI avatar generated things. Those are intriguing to me, so I would like to be at least educated enough in the space to know if it's something I would like to like partake in, but it's not something I'm like looking to replace myself with or anything like that. Past that, I'm pretty simple. I just like to enjoy my time and we like good steaks, long walks, and a hot tub. Like, we're not that crazy. So I don't have much plans past that. Doing this was not necessarily even like a monetary motivation. Like I had a good setup. We had an income that we liked. Like, we were good. More or less, it's I think the challenge of building something with your friends that's entertaining and challenging, and like, hitting certain benchmarks and be like, all right, that was cool. All right, what is the next one? It's just a mental personal challenge that we like.
That is fascinating, and I want to circle back to that. But before I do, I want to jump back into the present, because
Yes.
something that creators, particularly on YouTube, seem to run into is the issue of burnout. And you shared earlier on just how much both you and your boyfriend work. How do you not burn out with everything that you're trying to get done?
Yeah, I think this stems back to because we have such an ingrained history of working together for such a long time. In some ways, we don't even necessarily know another way of doing things. Like, we don't look at it as work. I mentioned the long walks just now. Like, we get off work, but we go work out and we hang out with our friends and we catch up for the day on the things that we did, and we brainstorm, and we have a couple, things that we're trying to cover, what are the new initiatives, and it doesn't feel stressful to us. There's definitely like certain times where we may have a deadline for something, but it's all self-imposed for us. So we don't really get there. If we do, it's like, okay, hey, we need to have a chiller night. Like, we're gonna sit down, have a nice dinner, and pop in the hot tub and listen to some good music. Like, but then we're pretty much refreshed. We're not necessarily like, we're gonna like shut down the page for 3 weeks and we'll see when we get back type of thing. Like, I think because it's so authentically ourselves, and just that we've always kind of done the things that we want to do, we don't really kind of reach that ceiling. I think it might still kind of come back to like, this is our life and authentically what we're doing. We're not having to put on a character or put on a face, if you will, because I could see that being a little bit more demanding if you're trying to meet certain expectations that necessarily aren't how you are day to day. That could be a lot more.
There is a lot of wisdom in that, because I'm definitely not a psychologist, but it's like, if you don't have to have like the cognitive overhead basically of trying to become like different people, then it doesn't become an emotional burden. You don't have to like task switch and code switch, and so that's the sense that my brain is making of it. And then also, if you're working with friends and family, then it's people that you want to spend time with anyway. So
Built-in break. You're like kind of always plugged into the wall charging. You're like, oh, okay, that was funny, that was good. I got a little reprieve.
That's a great analogy. I like that. Just stay plugged into the wall charger. That's fantastic. So then another question that I have is actually around when you first told your family, that you were deciding to start an OnlyFans business.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Okay, good question. So this was like one of the things that I learned a lot about myself. So my boyfriend and his family, we told them pretty early on. I think because they were kind of in our workspace with our other business, our sporting goods company, we were kind of sharing like the whole office until we moved this into a different space. So it was kind of like, you're not gonna be like working, like hiding your computer, so we were like, all right, well, here's what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, very easy, very simple. We're like, all right, sweet. For me, I was a lot more afraid to tell my family. So I held out for a long time, even though my boyfriend's like, just tell them it's fine. Like, he's like, I'll support you with whatever you want to do. And I kind of made it into this bigger thing in my head than I ever needed to. So I put it off. And it would be tough because we would get together and they'd be like, what's new? And I'm like, not much. It's like, clearly there's a lot going on, So yeah, I ended up telling them a little over a year ago, actually, and it was Father's Day. Yay me!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, all right. But no, I told my whole family that same day. I told them all in one shot, and they were super supportive. They're like, all right, cool. As long as you guys are healthy and happy and safe, like, have at it. And I was like, well, I made that into something much, much more. Like, I was anticipating, I don't know, I think I was just scared of like hearing things or having to have an uncomfortable conversation. And so that was a big rep, if you will, like mentally for me of like, hey, you know what? Things may be challenging or maybe hard to do, but then once you do it, you've done it. You're alive. The people you care about are still around you. You're still loved. Like, it's okay. And even if it went poorly, it's like, hey, you did something challenging. You built some character. Like, so I learned a lot from that. And yeah, they're super supportive. My mom will write, you know, like when we have a live show, she'll write things on the whiteboard and be like, you know, welcome to the 4th of July show. And it's like just simple little things to show their support. It's just cool. So yeah, I can't complain.
That sounds like you have an amazingly supportive family. That's I don't think anyone could hope for like a better response than that.
Probably not. I think just to add to it too, I think mentally too, I prepared, like if they weren't okay with that, I was okay. Because I think that's the thing, is people are afraid of like the rejection. Like, hey, my family's gonna like not accept me. And I mentally was like, you know what? That's okay. If that's the thing, then no problem. Like, I know that if I have my boyfriend, I feel okay. So like that's my ground, that's my base. And then anything else past that is gravy. But like I got to the point where I was prepared. Like if I need to, I'm okay with not being on the same page with them. And that helped a lot too. So
that's cool. Speaking of base, you said your boyfriend is your base, but I actually wanted to switch gears and talk about the fan base. I'm curious, are there also women in your audience by any chance?
So there are, very, very infrequent, but there are. I will tell you though, we do get several couples, so that's cool too. So we actually have a huge mix. OnlyFans doesn't give us any kind of like demographics, so it's very much, you know, I ask one person and they tell me kind of information, so it's very individualistic. But I mean, I have people who are, you know, just starting dating, like in college, and they're like, hey, I'm going on my first date, like I need some advice, I don't know what to do. All the way upwards of, we have widows and widowers that have written us that are in their 60s and 70s, or you know, other people that are kind of going through things, or and it's just, you get the full gamut. So it's really kind of refreshing to meet a lot of people in different workspaces, different places of the world, and different parts of their life, and they all can find a way to connect with you. So that was kind of cool.
That is very cool. And on the flip side of that, have you ever encountered any of, you know, the quote unquote dark side? You know, have there ever been security issues or cybersecurity or anything that you've had to be concerned about?
We've always been pretty, I think, not that I'm aware of. Like, I mean, you always have a couple in any kind of large gathering, large pool of people. You're going to have outliers, stuff like that. So there's been a couple people, but OnlyFans is really, really good about being a secure, safe platform. I mean, their terms of service are pretty clear. We adhere to those guidelines strictly. You know, everything is 18 plus. On our side too, we have a very like strict like process of contracts and testing and things like that. We just try and check all the boxes and make everything super transparent for everybody who's involved. The same thing with the fans. It's like, hey, somebody asked me a question, like, hey, look, that's against the terms of service, and you know, I respect you and your wishes, but like that's not something I'm able to do or answer or whatever the thing is there. But yeah, I mean, I think I can think of like 2 times where somebody said something like not so nice in like an extreme version, and it was just like, well, block, report, handled. Like, that's super simple. But past that, I think I've been recognized a handful of times like out in public, and like everyone's been super nice and super straightforward. I've never had any issues. Like, it was really cool. It was really fun actually. So I don't know. All good there.
It's such a testimony to deciding to put whatever it is that you're choosing to put out into the world, and seeing how the world responds to it, and being pleasantly surprised with how much more good there is than any potential bad that comes out. Because I think there's, like you mentioned, there's like, you mentioned having quite a bit of fear before, like telling your parents, you know, telling your family, and then you did, and then it was like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
100%.
Okay, and now I'm working with family and friends, you know. Curious, you mentioned earlier on in the conversation about how, you know, you guys pretty much live like a simple life. I'm curious, as you know, revenue started to go up, what changed, if anything, and like what stayed the same?
Okay, good question. So let's see. I think one of my goals was I've always wanted to build our own house. So it was kind of like, even before all this. So like in my head, I was like, oh, that would be really, really cool. So we haven't built one yet, but we did get a new place. It has 10 acres. So like we were looking for stuff that had like a little more space, a little more elbow room so we could just kind of enjoy the quiet. Double-edged sword, because we actually got a place that has a 4,000 square foot building out back, and we actually turned that into our gym, and that's where the whole team works. So like now everybody is 100 feet away, like Monday through Friday. So it's cool because then we're all physically present in person. Like you can see everybody. We break for lunch, like that. So that's cool. But that was kind of a big change of having everybody on property, and then we just got a bigger place that we have more options to film more content in and enjoy our lives. So like that changed. Past that, not much else. I mean, we like our steak dinners, so we still go to our same steakhouse. We've traveled a little bit more just because it makes sense to network and try and do some of these other things. But past that, I don't know. I mean, we've always had Tesla, so we have a Tesla. Like that didn't change. We had that from our previous, business, things like that. Not much. I don't know. We're pretty simple, I swear.
Oh, that's cool. I actually, so jumping back then into the past, I know we actually have some listeners who also come from a background in e-commerce who are probably wondering in their heads, like, okay, so tell us a little bit more about the e-commerce business, because you didn't exit it. It's still active, but I'm guessing you're just not necessarily super active in that business since you're
Correct.
Focusing on the current one. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's 100%. I truthfully spend absolutely zero time in that other business. Like it is fully out of my scope. My boyfriend probably spends like maybe 15 minutes a week on it. Like it's to the point that we basically growing that company, we knew we were not very good at hiring, and so we always opted to optimize systems and software over hiring additional people. So because of that and just years of doing that, we have really fine-tuned the systems and operations over there. So it is a tight team, but like our family runs it, and like it's good. It hums right along. I think it does like 2.5 million a year in sales, and yeah, it's still active. We sell on like Amazon and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a great space. It's a cool business. It was a lot of fun. It taught us so much. It has like a little bit of nostalgic, connection to us just because we built that literally like by hand. But it set us up for this, and I'm glad it's still there, and I'm glad it can like provide for our family, and I don't know, I can't complain about it. So they handle it. There's no fires that I have to deal with. So
and that's really cool, because what it sounds like has been achieved is basically a business that runs without you, which is what so many people are trying to do. And it seems though with the current model that it may never be a business that runs without you. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on that whatsoever?
Yeah, that is actually something that we've talked about a little bit too, because we're just not sure, like, okay, like how long, what is the lifespan of this creator economy? How is it going to change? Obviously the AI in general is like this big potential change to the space, so we're not sure over the coming years what will happen there. And we also realize that this is not like our other business where it is largely a personal brand tied to my physical face and presence. So my presence is required. It's not something I can just kind of step out from. So for now, I don't have anything else that I am chasing or anything else that I am wanting to do. We have the option to add or bring up more of our friends into the community even a bit more, which is kind of something we're working on doing. One, because we just want our friends to be successful and happy. But two, I think it also kind of gives the fans more options and more people to connect with. So in case I want to, reduce my input or something, or try and dabble on something else, it's not like I'm just leaving them. I will have a great support system and other people that they can also feel supported and have the same values. But yeah, I don't know. I don't anticipate stopping, but I also have no idea what I'll be like in 10 years and what the community will be like. And I think we're just seeing kind of like this whole shift over the last 2-3 years. And obviously OnlyFans has grown massively since I've joined, and I missed the entire year of 2020 with COVID. Like I came on a whole year later. So like, you know, I'm sure January 2020 versus when I started in January 2021, drastically different. And I'm sure it's the same thing is going to repeat over the next couple of years. So I don't know. We'll see.
So a related question, as far as content production over, because it's a bigger conversation around, you know, continuing to produce content for,
Yes.
you know, into perpetuity. But what about taking breaks from producing content on a week-to-week basis or month-to-month basis? Do you take vacations? And if you do, what then happens?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. So backdrop is, so for the first 2 years of our account, we basically put our heads down, stayed in Florida, didn't go anywhere, and we were hardcore about our product and building good content. And that was just in-house, like with our friends and like doing fun things that we thought were cool and just practicing our craft and getting better and better at it. We actually did our first 5 million in sales without any social media account. Like I didn't even have an Instagram. So even if you look at my socials now, you're kind of like, this girl, like, you know. So we actually just started our like focusing on our socials to bring in additional fans. Right now, primarily our fan base was brought from within the platform. We just advertised through other creators and built out a huge structure there. So now I have that as a backbone, and we're going to bring in more people for the social media side. So we're learning about that. So now we're actually going into making more safe for work content, which is long form for like YouTube and OFTV, and then short form for the TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, stuff like that. So actually, that's where more of my time is going into, is the content creation. And we're just looking at any kind of opportunity as a way to display our personalities and our friendships, and how can we share that with more people. So in the past, we would kind of like take little breaks, like we would go to Clearwater for a weekend or something, and we would film a couple things, and that was our vacation, but we were still kind of working. I think that will kind of always be the undertone. I don't think we're going to necessarily like go to a remote island and unplug for a week. Like that just doesn't seem like us. But we're kind of using anything that we do, or any kind of travel or any kind of experience, as a way to document or share a cool time with people, and hopefully they get to enjoy it while we do. So at least that's the feedback I get. So that's the goal.
So that's interesting then. So like when you're traveling, do you have a production team that then also travels with you, or are you handling primarily just between your boyfriend and you?
So when it's just him and I, we will handle it ourselves. Actually, primarily, so another thing is like, I think people overthink, like they need a big camera crew, and they need the boom mic, and they need all these things. Lo and behold, this is pretty much what 98% of our filming is done, is on the old iPhone. So I will admit I have 3 of them, so I'm always ready. I have angles and stuff like that. But in fact, OnlyFans, it was kind of mind-blowing. It was like, they appreciate the realness, the raw footage, that I just whipped my phone out and like, here's what's going on type of thing. Not like the perfect lighting and the angles. Like if I trip on the rug or, you know, giggle snort, I leave it in. You know, there's been plenty of times where things goof up, and I will like tell my fans about that, and they appreciate those things. Like they like it even more because they can tell it's authentic. So when we travel, like our friends who edit my social media stuff, we primarily bring one or both of them with us, and they're just hanging out, and we giggle and we have our fun things, and they just try and capture as much of it as possible. And they're very, very lucky in that we have a very interesting team that has learned a lot of great skills, and they're able to take what we do and turn it into like really short, cool, just summaries of everything that was going on. So I don't know. We're high production in our own way.
That's cool. It sounds like one of like just the driving forces between, well, 2 of the driving forces of this business. Like it sounds like you really enjoy it.
Yeah,
like
that's a good baseline to start with. Is doing something that you enjoy. I don't feel like anybody should do things that they don't. I mean, like I get certain circumstances, sometimes you have to, but I think always like try and strive to do something that you're going to get some enjoyment out of, or learn a new skill, or just punch the clock. You can get there.
And this is going to dip a bit into more of the business side of things again. What's the average or longest people, subscribe to your content for?
Okay, so Obviously, we have outliers. So I have definitely several fans that have pretty much been there from like the last 2 years, like almost from the very get-go. You have other people that come and go just within a day, like it's just not their thing. But we typically see, at least on my VIP page, I think month over month we have like a 50% retention rate because we track a ton of data. Like not everybody out there doesn't have to do what we do. We are data nerds. We love to collect data, analyze it, and just try to improve. So we know that number. But especially because sex is very novelty, and I think people come in for that but then end up staying longer because they get to know us, or they get to know somebody, or they get to know the intern or one of my girlfriends, and they feel like they have this friendship. So we'll find people will leave and kind of come back, or we'll get lost in the shuffle in OnlyFans and they'll find us again through a post or something. But on average, I mean, maybe like 3-6 months, something like that. So it's not bad. It's definitely a higher conversion, higher turnover rate, but given the space is like an entertainment space, it's an attention space, like I don't think it's that bad, honestly. Mm-hmm. I think it's a pretty sustainable mark on, and then just the more people we can reach, the more impact we can have. That's kind of how I look at it. So
I mean, it might be higher retention than a gym membership for some people, though. That's fair. For the e-commerce business, if you recall, was it more just one-time transactions, or were there any like loyalty-based products or subscriptions or anything like that?
So I think we had we're a pretty big fish in like this interesting smallish pond. We actually kind of transitioned more into like this inventory solutions kind of business where we worked with like a lot of like your local mom and pop sporting goods companies, and like they would have, a size 14 basketball shoe, but like there's no local Johnny who will wear that shoe, but like on Amazon, you can reach this market. So we would help them with like old inventory and just taking it from a local market and selling it globally. So the problem with that is that you would often end up with so many one-offs. You'd have one random blue size 14 Nikes from 2020. And so you may have a customer for life, but if I only have one of those, I only have one type of thing. So we had a little bit of a healthy mix of both, where people who wanted to or would come back seasonally, let's say for baseball gear, their kid would grow and they would want to get it the next size up or something. So we'd have a healthy mix of that, but a lot of it was direct to consumer through Amazon, eBay, Walmart, stuff like that. So it was kind of like we're a third party seller. So people, if you kind of come up on Amazon, they don't pay as great of attention of like, I am buying from this person compared to like going to your website type of thing. So a mix.
Yeah, my question behind the question was how like loyalty compared on OF versus like the e-commerce. If they were like the same, or if it was like different.
Definitely different, because like the sporting goods business, it's like you have a one-time thing, like you're in need of this baseball glove and you needed it now, but now you're gonna have a glove for the next 3 years, that type of thing. So like maybe we have an outstanding customer service and you remember that 3 years later, like cool. Where OF is much more like you're building a connection with somebody, so like they check in after work or on their lunch break, and it might be this like day-to-day thing where it's much more of like an actual relationship versus like a transaction. At least that's how I look at it. Like I look at my fans as friends and as a community, not as a transaction and not as a source of money, if you will. And I will say I had another point I was going for with this, but it's escaped me, so I'll shut up. If it comes back, I'll let you know.
The original question was if retention is longer with the e-commerce business versus OnlyFans.
It made me think of this other thing, which I don't think was a thing, but that's okay. I've been spoiled because I didn't have such a social media like kind of presence. I got used to my interactions with the fans on OnlyFans. So I was like, okay, this is how all social media platforms are. Everyone is super supportive and very nice and very caring and polite. And like as soon as we started our social media, I was like, whoa, this is very different. You guys are very abrasive. I'm like, I like the community that we have over here. I will say that the OnlyFans community and like the people, the fans that come to your page, like they have chosen to be there. They choose actively to stay there. It wasn't this like passive like doom scroll, like, yeah, I'll follow and then comment something that, I would never say to somebody in person. It's very much like this interactive thing where I know them and they know me. So like that much is really, really cool. So if anybody doesn't know OnlyFans, like you can go there and you can get to know somebody, and like that's just the baseline of it. And I know. So I love it. So
that brings up a fascinating parallel to me, because regardless of the product, the service, the industry, it seems as though paying customers or clients just generally works out to be a better community than free, because you just go into the YouTube comment section of any video. It could be a video about puppies. Someone's like, I don't like puppies.
Like how?
Yeah, I think what it is people when they can comment anonymously, they then use the internet as just a bucket for whatever negative experiences you're having. It could be anxiety, it could be fear, it could be rage, or whatever it is, maybe, and just dump it, and then, because one of my mentors would sometimes respond to these kinds of comments just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
and then it would be fascinating to see how people would reply, and they would own up to it. They'd be like, no, I was just being upset. Like, so, like somebody died in my family and I just wanted to, punch the air, like metaphorically speaking. It seems to be what happens sometimes. And of course, you've got the outliers where, people are just like, just a little bit, they need help, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
But there's a lot of people out there who just, again, just want to punch, a punching bag. And the reason I bring that up is because some of the people who are listening into this, they will not share the gifts that they have with the world that could actually change someone's life, because of the fear of putting their work out there, putting their brain out there, putting their face out there, because of that negative backlash that might come. And if you could share anything with that kind of person, what would you tell them?
It's probably not as bad as you anticipate it being. Speaking just personally, anecdotally, I have found that I'm personally my own worst enemy, and that if I have that thought and I let it, kind of fester and go in my mind, or I let it hold myself back, often the reality of it is much less substantial than whatever I've kind of dreamed up in the world. And often the risk of trying something, you learn something about yourself, you probably gain some skills, some character, you have the opportunity to achieve that goal or mark that you're looking for. And whatever your art is, whatever your product is, whatever the thing the skill that you have that you don't want to share, I always go to art just as a nice word to kind of sum up somebody's thing, because it could be a digital thing, it could be a product, it could be a skill. But like, that's your art, and like, you care about it. And there are people out there that care the same or will appreciate you in such a way. It's just a matter of kind of putting yourself out there and letting people find you. And it might take a while. It's not going to be an overnight thing. The point is, I think it's worth trying, and it's probably better to try and actually give it an effort and learn something about yourself, let alone at least you have the option of having success by putting it out there. If you don't try, there's no shot of it being a success, like zero. It's absolutely zero. So it's like, why not actually try? And I don't know, I find it's usually not as bad as you've made it sound. And usually people will be in your corner. The people who care about you will back you up. They got you.
That is rock solid advice. And I only have I almost want to end the interview here. Like, I don't think we can go any higher than that response. That was really awesome.
Appreciate that.
I've been in the coaching industry now for close to a decade. That was great coaching.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know. I'm just riffing over here, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, 1000%. So two to three of the closing questions that I always like to ask is, if you could go back in time to give yourself any advice, knowing everything that you know now, what would you tell yourself?
It's probably, jumping off the back of that previous one, would be to calm down and try something. Calm down and let it be. It's gonna be easier or better than you anticipated. There's no need to be scared. That I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna be breathing, I'm gonna have my boyfriend. There are some baselines that if you boil it all down, you got a couple things I really care about, everything else is gonna be fine. Why stress? Why worry? Just probably that in a nutshell. It doesn't get much better than that. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's great advice, and it might make it harder for you to answer the next question, which is, if you had a choice, you're stuck on a desert island, and you have only one dessert to have for the rest of your life. What's it gonna be?
One dessert? Okay. Well, see, there's so many questions. So, like, do I have other food, or is it just dessert? Because I may choose something high protein so I can survive and dense. Like, I need to know what my calories are like here.
That answer just said so much. That is ultra practical. I dig it.
I'm not gonna have like one wheat thin for dessert. Like, I would want something dense and high calorie and like protein based so I can be like secure and live. I don't know. I have this like cottage cheese mix that we've been making at night. It's like fat-free cottage cheese, a scoop of like Jello, sugar-free Jello pudding, and Jello mix, and it's like this like chocolatey fun little thing, but it's like 35 grams of protein and like 300 calories. I'm like, I'm good to go. So I don't know.
That's great, because that actually is an amazing place to close out on, because one of the recurring themes that I felt from you throughout, this very short rapid fire hour that just like flew by, is how data driven you are. Because it's not that you don't experience fear, or any of the gamut of emotions that are universal to the human experience. But one recurring thing that I've heard in your story is that you feel the fear and then you do it anyway. You go collect data, and then you allow data to then tell you just if it's true or not, which is something that I continue to try to do, and I'm pretty sure everyone listening into this can also continue to do more of as well.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. That's 100%.
Of course.
And I'm still working on it myself. There's still plenty of times where I was like, the data says this, but I'm feeling a different way, and I'm like, no.
It's like, it's always that struggle. It's like, trust the data, or do I trust intuition, or try to find some blend of both? To then figure out and like go from there. It's fascinating. I've also shared this with some of my clients. It seems like, I think there's one part of us that's scientist and another part that is artist, and we tend to have this affinity for one of those. We might be more scientists than artists, or more artists than scientists, but if we can bring the two together and kind of keep them in balance, then we'll not just be balanced, but then move towards the growth that we want in life.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I could see that being very applicable. That makes sense.
And I've been peppering you with questions nonstop. Are there any questions that you have for me?
Ooh, man. I don't know. You're very talented. The hour flew by. I had a lot of great just questions for me. I don't know. I'm just amazed. So thank you, first of all, because that was a really cool, fun time, and I feel like I even learned a lot about myself through talking to you. So you know right how to like get to that point. I don't know. So let's see. What has been the biggest thing that you've learned through doing the podcast?
Ooh, that's a great question. Maybe you should do a podcast. The biggest thing I've learned about myself is that I genuinely enjoy having these conversations and getting to know people better. Like, I'm always learning, and it doesn't feel like work. Like, I would enjoy having this conversation even if it weren't going to be published on the internet.
Sure.
Like this, that I would have multiple of these conversations every single day. I just think it's fun. So
totally.
That's been a very interesting find for me, and it makes me think of what you shared earlier, where what you do doesn't feel like work, and so it doesn't quite feel like you're going to approach burnout or anything like that. And I feel the same with when I had these conversations. It's like, this was energizing. I do another one like 30 minutes from now. I might need to drink some water, but I'm good for like
take some of that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's fabulous. I think that's probably the perfect mix of like, you're learning something new, you're connecting with new people, you're sharing great information, and then because you are publishing it, you're actually able to educate more people. And I don't know, I love that. I love sharing things. Obviously, sometimes you have to experience certain things firsthand, but a lot of the time you can make a lot of headway by listening and encouraging other people and hearing other people's stories and getting a different perspective. So that's really cool. That's awesome.
Well, thank you for an even more amazing way for us to close this out. And with that, is there anywhere you would like for people to be able to find you that is safe for work? I don't know if that's an option.
Sure. Well, all my social media stuff is totally safe for work. So I'm at Fit Bryce Adams everywhere there. My main website leads to my Safe for Work OnlyFans page. So that one's good to go. It's fitbryceadams.com. And yeah, I don't know. You basically look me up. I'll be there.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. This was fantastic. And yeah, everyone's going to love this. This was great.
Oh, good. I really appreciate you having me. Honestly, I love the whole entire experience through and through. From the moment that I got introduced to you, I was like, this is going to be a lot of fun. So, and it was.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button and also subscribe so you don't miss another one. It also tells us which ones that you like the most so that we can then do more interviews like that. If you want to go from idea to implementation though, especially if you're wanting to productize your expertise so that you can scale your impact on your clients and of course grow your business, then join our email list. There we're going to talk about how modern consultants can productize their expertise so that they can have a greater impact on the world around them and live life on their terms. If that's up your alley, I hope to see you on the other side. Talk soon.